I moved slowly through the house, robe knotted loosely at my waist, the low hum of the dishwasher offering the only rhythm to the silence. The hallway light spilled amber warmth onto the floorboards, soft and still, like melted candle wax, but it didn't make the quiet feel less hollow. It was Asher's 19-year-old birthday. A night that should have been noisy, laughter bouncing off the walls, footsteps rushing through the door too loudly, slurred joy, drunk singing from his friends, even the clatter of something dropped too carelessly on the kitchen counter. Instead, there was nothing. Just me. A basket of warm laundry. The steady tick of the old kitchen clock. Now the clock read nearly midnight, and I hadn't heard a word. No texts. No calls. Just the strange weight of absence pressing into the corners of the house. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, but alert. I told myself he was just staying late. That they'd moved the party to someone else's place. He was being young, free, and careless in the way 19-year-olds are supposed to be. But the longer I sat, the more my thoughts turned against me. My stomach tightened with a dull, slow anxiety, the kind that doesn't come from fear exactly, but from something deeper. Instinct, maybe. I reached for my phone again. No new messages. Just the dim glow of the lock screen and my own reflection staring back at me through the black. I looked tired. Older. Like someone watching the edge of something fray, unsure if it was a thread she could pull back into place or one that would unravel everything. The dishwasher clicked into its final cycle. A low, sighing sound. I listened to it in the silence that followed as if it had something to say. I didn't know yet that the night had already begun changing shape, that somewhere outside, the version of the evening I had imagined was unraveling into something else entirely. Something that would not let itself be folded back into the shape of normal again. The sound came like a crack in calm, the front door swinging open, fast and thoughtless, striking the wall with a dull thud. It jolted through the silence of the house like an echo dropped into a still lake. I moved fast but not frantic, feet soft on the stairs, heart loud in my ears. As I turned the corner into the entryway, I saw him. Asher. Slumped against the wall like gravity had turned cruel. His head tipped forward, one hand barely clutching the doorknob as if the world might spin if he let go. The light caught the edges of him, sweat dampened his shirt collar, and his eyes were red, not just from the alcohol, but from something raw. The scent of him reached me first, sharp liquor laced with cheap cologne, and something more human. Something like grief. He tried to speak, and the words came out ruined, thick and low. Not full sentences, not thoughts, just fragments. She cheated. She's gone. She left me tonight. It didn't sound like anger. It sounded like something broken had been rattled inside him, and now all that was left were pieces rattling loose. I stepped closer, sliding his arm over my shoulder without asking. His body pressed into mine. He was taller than me, always had been, but in that moment, he felt small, not in size, but in spirit. Every step up the stairs was a slow drag of his weight and my will, and still, I didn't rush him. There was a kind of sacredness in the way he leaned into me, not just for balance, but for anchoring. Halfway up, he stopped. His hand tightened on my arm. His breath, hot and sour with vodka, ghosted over my cheek as he whispered, not to me, but to the air, or maybe to himself. Why does no one stay? I felt it like a pin to the chest. That soft ache of a question I'd asked myself once, too many years ago, in a different room, with a different kind of heartbreak. He said he just wanted tonight to matter. And here he was, collapsing into the night instead. I tightened my hold on him, trying to will my steadiness into his shaking. There was something unbearable in seeing someone you love unravel, especially when their pain made them look like the child they used to be. A boy in a man's body, drunk on disappointment, shivering in the arms of the only person left to witness the collapse. By the time we reached the top, he was quiet. I guided him into his room, eased him onto the bed, and stood there for a moment, watching his body curl toward the wall like it was trying to disappear. The door to his room clicked shut behind me with a softness that felt rehearsed, like I'd done this before, comforted someone else's brokenness, and quietly excused myself before the weight of it settled too deeply into my skin. But the truth was, I hadn't done this before. Not like that. Not with Asher. Back in my bedroom, the air felt different, warmer than it had earlier, almost suffocating. I walked to the window and cracked it open just enough to let the cool night seep in. It brushed against my cheek, but it didn't calm me. I moved to the vanity instead, sitting down without really deciding to. My fingers reached for the brush on instinct, gliding it through my hair in long, automatic strokes. I watched myself in the mirror, a woman in motion, eyes vacant, breath uneven. I stood up again, moved to the bathroom, and wiped the counter that was already clean. The cloth swirled in slow circles, clearing nothing, revealing nothing. My hands were busy, but my thoughts were elsewhere, spinning, snagging, retracing. I checked my phone again. Nothing from Jaden, my husband. Though he was working late, he had said so that morning with a quick kiss and a distracted tone. I told him it was fine. A faint knock shifted my mind. But when I opened the door, Asher was standing there, barefoot and uncertain, like the boy he no longer looked like. His eyes were heavy, the kind of tired that wasn't about sleep. Something deeper, worn down from the inside out. His shoulders were drawn in, his posture fragile, and, without asking, I understood what he needed. Not an explanation. Not comfort in the way people usually mean it. Just presence. Just not being alone. He didn't wait for words. I stepped back, and he stepped in, brushing past me with a quiet that seemed to hush the whole room. He moved to the edge of the bed, pulled the comforter back like he belonged to the space, and lay on his side, his back to me. No weight in the motion. Just the exhausted collapse of someone trying not to feel anymore. The room was dim, the only light coming from the crack of the bathroom door and the warm flicker of the candle I'd forgotten I lit. I stood there for a moment, unsure of my own place in the scene, until my body moved without instruction. I sat on the other side of the bed, careful not to disturb the mattress too much, hands folded in my lap. Then, without turning fully, he shifted just enough to face me. His voice, small and raw, rose into the quiet, not loud, not pleading, just honest in a way that left no room for pretending. He said I made him feel safe. Always had. Like I was the one thing in the world that didn't leave. A crack I thought I'd sealed long ago opened again. I tried to answer, to meet his pain with something light, something motherly, but even I heard the fracture in my voice. I laid down. I wasn't sure what I had invited into the room. I only knew it was already here. But then I felt it, the faint shift of weight beside me, the pull of the mattress, the warmth of his body inching closer. His arm slid across the space between us, tentative and slow, resting at my waist. A light touch. Barely any pressure at all. But it was there. Solid. Real. I froze and felt the internal jolt, the way your body responds when something crosses a threshold you didn't know was marked. My breath hitched quietly, barely perceptible, but enough that I felt it. Enough to betray the stillness I was trying to hold. His touch wasn't rough. It wasn't clumsy or heavy like a drunk boy grasping for comfort. It was intentional. Lingering. Not quite innocent. But not overtly wrong either. It was the kind of contact that lives in the gray space between meanings and demanded I choose which one it was. His fingers moved and rested between my legs like he'd found something steady. Something he could hold on to. I didn't pull away. Maybe it was a shock. Maybe fear. Maybe something else entirely. But I stayed still, body tense beneath his arm, heart thudding against my ribs like it was trying to make its presence known, a frantic rhythm to break the spell of silence. I stared up at the ceiling, counted the shadows, tried not to feel the heat rising in my face, the way my skin was suddenly too aware of being touched. And then I heard him. His voice, barely a whisper, more breath than sound, soft and cracked in a way that slipped beneath the surface of me. He said he thought tonight would be with her. That he'd trusted the wrong person. Something in that sentence folded me in half without touching my body. There was so much beneath it, not just hurt, but regret, disillusionment, the hollow space left by someone who wasn't supposed to leave. He didn't say anything after that, and I didn't respond. My silence wasn't an agreement. It wasn't refusal either. It was the kind of silence that trembled, that knew something had shifted, but didn't know whether to acknowledge it or pretend it hadn't happened. The air between us pulsed. Not heavy, not light, just altered. I stayed still, but still was no longer the same as before. The silence was no longer neutral. It had grown its shape, its own breath almost sentient in the way it hovered between us, waiting. I could feel it pressing at the edges of my skin, thickening the air in the room, making each second feel like it might crack open and spill into something we couldn't reverse. I parted my legs just slightly, just enough for him to understand that I had no intention of stopping him. The silence stretched, no longer empty but filled with the weight of anticipation, thick and humming against my skin. His fingers moved with an aching slowness, tracing over me like he was committing every reaction to memory. A soft breath slipped from my lips, my body tilting toward him, aching for more. The air between us felt charged, alive, as if even the dim candlelight could sense what was about to happen. When he finally pulled away to strip the rest of his clothes, I should have felt exposed beneath his gaze, but I didn't. There was nothing rushed, nothing careless, only the quiet, deliberate way he looked at me like he had been waiting for this moment far longer than either of us would ever admit. The warmth of his skin met mine as he settled between my thighs, and my breath hitched at the first brush of contact. My body knew him, welcomed him, and when he pushed forward, filling me in one slow, deliberate stroke, my fingers tightened in the sheets. He moved like he had all the time in the world, like he wanted me to feel every second of this, every inch of him sinking deeper into me. My hands found his back, my nails pressing into his skin as he rolled his hips, pulling me into a rhythm that was both torturously slow and devastatingly perfect. Heat coiled in my stomach, building with each measured thrust, each deep stroke that left me gasping, my body arching to meet him. His lips found my neck, my collarbone, the swell of my breast, soft kisses, slow drags of his mouth that only made the pleasure climb higher, unraveling me piece by piece. The tension between us thickened, winding tight, and I felt it coming, the moment where everything would break apart, where the pleasure would crest and pull me under. My legs wrapped around him, pulling him closer, deeper, and when it finally hit, I shattered. My back arched, my breath caught in my throat, and the world disappeared in a white-hot wave of sensation. His movements stuttered, his body tensing as he followed, a low, guttural sound slipping from his lips as he spilled into me. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The only sound in the room was our breathing, heavy and uneven, the aftershocks still pulsing between my legs. His weight pressed into me, grounding me, anchoring me in the quiet aftermath of what we had just shared. Slowly, his hand came up to trace over my cheek, a gentle, lingering touch that made my chest tighten in a way that had nothing to do with desire and everything to do with something deeper, something terrifyingly real. I turned my head slightly, just enough to press a kiss to his fingertips, and at that moment, with the sheets tangled around us and the night stretching on, I knew this was no longer just physical. This was something else entirely, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. But now, I need to hear from you. If you were in my position, if you had crossed the line with the one person you shouldn't have, what would you do? Would you cut things off immediately and risk the fallout, or would you try to manage the situation, hoping it wouldn't spiral further out of control? And here's the thing. Asher is getting too attached. I can feel it. The way he looks at me, the way he lingers, the way he expects something now, it's making my conscience scream at me. The guilt is sinking in, and I can't ignore it anymore. But how do I pull away without making everything worse? Has anything like this ever happened to you? If so, what was the aftermath? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I need to know what you would do in my shoes. And don't forget to subscribe, because trust me, the next update in this story is coming soon, and things are about to get even more complicated. I'll be reading every comment. Let's talk.